Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Books and Bytes today.
Yeah.
We're taking a deep dive into the Oxford Illustrated History of Second World War.
Yeah.
This book it's so much more than just battles and dates.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a sweeping epic
Yeah.
told through vivid images
Yeah.
and compelling narratives that truly capture the global impact of this conflict.
You know what's striking about this book is how it emphasizes the interconnectedness of the world. In the 1930s and 40s, it really shows how a seemingly isolated event in Manchuria
Yeah.
could reverberate across continents and ultimately contributing to the outbreak of a global war.
Yeah, you're right. The book doesn't just give us like a timeline of events. It paints a picture of a world on the brink,
Right.
grappling with economic depression, political extremism, and the looming threat of another devastating war.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does this by weaving together personal stories with grand historical narratives. One moment you're reading about the strategic decisions made in war rooms, and the next you're confronted with a photograph of a child refugee, their face etched with fear and uncertainty. It's that human element that really brings the history to life.
Absolutely. The book makes it clear that World War II wasn't just a clash of armies. It was a clash of ideologies, a battle for the very soul of humanity. And it touched the lives of everyone, from soldiers on the front lines to families struggling to survive on the home front.
One of the book's main themes is the failure of appeasement. It shows how the reluctance of world powers to confront aggression early on, particularly from Germany, only emboldened dictators like Hitler, and ultimately made the war inevitable.
It's like that old saying, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. This book serves as a powerful reminder of the dangers of complacency in the face of tyranny.
Speaking of tyranny, the book delves into the chilling rise of fascism in Italy and Germany. It explores the factors that allowed these ideologies to take root, from economic hardship and political instability to the seductive appeal of nationalism and promises of a return to past glories.
The book also doesn't shy away from the horrific consequences of these ideologies, particularly the genocide perpetrated by the Nazi regime, the image of German soldiers executing Jewish women. It's a chilling reminder of the depths of human depravity that can be unleashed by unchecked hatred and prejudice.
It's a sobering reminder that we must always be vigilant against intolerance and discrimination in all its forms.
So the stage is set for global conflict. We've got economic depression, political extremism, and the failure of diplomacy to prevent aggression. And then in 1939, the world explodes with the German invasion of Poland.
The invasion of Poland was a carefully calculated gamble by Hitler, a move that he believed would achieve a swift victory and consolidate his power in Europe. But he underestimated the resolve of the Allied powers, particularly Great Britain and France, who declared war on Germany in response to the invasion.
The book highlights the strategic brilliance,
Albeit twisted,
of the German blitzkrieg they swept through Poland. Denmark, Norway, the Netherlands, Belgium, and France, with lightning speed, utilizing a combination of tanks, aircraft, and highly mobile infantry. It was a new kind of warfare.
Oh, yeah.
One that shocked the world with its speed and brutality.
And while the initial focus was on Europe, the conflict quickly spread across the globe, drawing in nations from every continent. The book does a fantastic job of highlighting the global nature of the war, from the deserts of North Africa to the jungles of Southeast Asia, from the icy waters of the Atlantic to the vast expanse of the Pacific.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how the book connects these seemingly disparate theaters of war, showing how events in one part of the world had ripple effects across the globe. For example, the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941 brought the United States into the war, dramatically altering the balance of power, and ultimately leading to the defeat of the Axis powers.
That attack, which the book describes in vivid detail, was a turning point in the war. It transformed the conflict from a primarily European affair into a truly global struggle, with the full might of the United States now arrayed against the Axis powers.
The book also delves into the crucial role of naval warfare, particularly the Battle of the Atlantic. It was a relentless struggle for control of the sea lanes, with German U-boats preying on Allied shipping, attempting to cut off vital supplies to Britain.
Imagine the tension, the fear of those sailors aboard those merchant ships. They were on the front lines in a battle that was just as crucial as any land battle, their cargo essential for the survival of Britain.
The book doesn't just focus on the military aspects of the war. It also explores the profound impact the conflict had on civilian populations around the world. Millions were displaced from their homes, economies were shattered, and societies were irrevocably changed.
The book really drives home the point that war is not just a matter of battles and statistics. It's about the human cost, the suffering and sacrifice of individuals and communities, caught in the crossfire.
The image of the ruined apartment block in Rome serves as a powerful reminder of the physical and psychological scars left by the war. It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, that people were able to rebuild their lives and communities from the ashes of such devastation.
And it's important to remember that this rebuilding wasn't just about bricks and mortar. It was about rebuilding trust, hope, and a sense of shared humanity. After years of conflict and division,
The book does a great job of highlighting the complexities of the war, the moral ambiguities, and the difficult choices that had to be made. It doesn't shy away from the darker aspects of the conflict, such as the Allied bombing campaigns that resulted in civilian casualties, or the use of atomic bombs against Japan.
these are difficult subjects to grapple with. But the book presents them in a balanced and thought-provoking way, encouraging readers to engage with the ethical dilemmas of war and the long-term consequences of those decisions.
So we get a world at war, battles raging across the globe, and a conflict that's impacting every aspect of human life. But amidst the chaos and destruction, there are also stories of incredible courage, resilience, and hope.
That's one of the things that makes this book so compelling. It's not just a chronicle of destruction, it's also a testament to the human spirit, our capacity for both good and evil, our ability to endure unimaginable hardship, and emerge from the ashes stronger than before.
And as the war drags on, the tide begins to turn. The Allied powers, fueled by a shared determination to defeat fascism, begin to gain the upper hand.
The book highlights key turning points in the war, such as the Battle of Stalingrad, which marked the beginning of the end for the German advance in the east, and the Allied landings in Normandy, which opened up a second front in Europe and paved the way for the liberation of France.
These victories came at a tremendous cost, but they demonstrated the growing strength and unity of the Allied forces
Yeah.
and their unwavering commitment to victory. And in the Pacific, the U.S. Navy's island hopping campaign slowly but surely pushed back against Japanese forces, culminating in the devastating battles of Iwo Jima and Okinawa.
These battles vividly depicted in the book were some of the bloodiest of the entire war. They underscore the tenacity of the Japanese defenders and the immense sacrifices made by Allied forces in their island hopping campaign.
And then in 1945, the world enters the atomic age. With the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the book doesn't shy away from the devastation caused by those bombs, the sheer scale of destruction and the horrific human cost.
It's a moment that continues to spark debate and controversy. The book presents the different perspectives on the decision to use atomic bombs, the arguments for and against without taking a definitive stance. It leaves the reader to grapple with the moral complexities and the long-lasting implications of that decision.
It's a heavy question to ponder, and one that forces us to confront the true cost of war and the ethical dilemmas faced by leaders in times of crisis.
The book then shifts to the aftermath of the war, a world grappling with the immense task of rebuilding and coming to terms with the horrors that had just unfolded.
The images of devastated cities and the accounts of survivors paint a stark picture of the challenges faced by nations as they sought to piece together their shattered societies.
The book highlights the formation of the United Nations, a beacon of hope in a world weary of war. It represented a collective effort to prevent future conflicts and promote international cooperation.
But as the book points out, even as the world celebrated the end of World War II, the seeds of a new conflict were already being sown. The Cold War, the ideological divide between the United States and the Soviet Union, the two superpowers that emerged from the ashes of the war, would shape global politics for decades to come.
It's fascinating to see how the book connects the events of World War II to the post-war world, showing how the conflict laid the groundwork for the geopolitical landscape of the latter half of the 20th century.
And as we reflect on this period of history, it's impossible to ignore the lasting legacy of World War II. It reshaped global power dynamics, accelerated technological advancements, and left an indelible mark on social and political structures.
Absolutely. The war led to the dismantling of colonial empires, the rise of new ideologies, and the advancement of technologies that would have profound implications for the future, both positive and negative.
The book does a great job of highlighting the war's long-term consequences, both intended and unintended. It shows how the conflict, while devastating in so many ways, also spurred innovation, fostered international cooperation, and ultimately led to a period of unprecedented economic growth and prosperity for many parts of the world.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there can be seeds of progress and hope.
One of the things that struck me about this book was its emphasis on the human stories, the individual experiences that often get lost in the grand narratives of war.
You're right. The book is filled with compelling personal accounts, from soldiers on the front lines to civilians caught in the crossfire, from resistance fighters battling tyranny to refugees fleeing for their lives. These stories bring the history to life, reminding us that behind the statistics and the battle maps, there were real people whose lives were forever altered by the events of World War II.
The book also doesn't shy away from the difficult questions, the moral ambiguities of war, the ethical dilemmas faced by leaders and ordinary people alike. It challenges us to confront the complexities of history and to grapple with the legacy of this conflict, both its triumphs and its tragedies.
It's a book that stays with you long after you finish reading it. It provokes thought, sparks debate, and challenges us to learn from the past so that we can build a better future.
It really makes you pause and think, doesn't it, about the ripple effects of history and how events from decades ago still shape our world today.
It certainly does. The Second World War was a global cataclysm that reshaped the political, social, and technological landscape of the world. Its impacts are still felt today, in countless ways.
You know, one thing that really struck me about this book was the way it captured the sheer scale of the war. The maps, the statistics, the personal accounts, all combined to paint a picture of a conflict that was unlike anything the world had ever seen.
It's hard to comprehend the sheer number of lives lost, the displacement of millions of people, the destruction of entire cities. It's a sobering reminder of the destructive power of human conflict.
The book doesn't shy away from those hard truths. It forces us to confront the brutal realities of war and the lasting consequences of such a massive global conflict.
And yet, amidst all the darkness and destruction, the book also highlights stories of hope, resilience, and the triumph of the human spirit. It's a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable adversity, people find ways to resist, to survive, to rebuild, and to create a better future.
I think that's a really important takeaway from this deep dive. It's not just about learning the facts and figures of World War II. It's about understanding the human cost of conflict and the importance of striving for peace, understanding, and cooperation.
Absolutely. We must learn from the mistakes of the past and work together to prevent such tragedies from happening again. The Second World War serves as a stark warning about the dangers of unchecked aggression, intolerance, and the failure to address injustice.
This deep dive has been an incredible journey through one of the most pivotal periods in human history. We've covered a lot of ground, explored the complexities of the war, and grappled with its lasting legacy.
It's been a privilege to share these insights with you, and I hope that this deep dive has inspired you to learn more about this fascinating and important subject.
To our listeners, I highly recommend picking up a copy of the Oxford Illustrated History of Second World War. It's a book that will challenge you, inform you, and stay with you long after you've finished reading it.
And as we wrap up this episode, remember that history is not just something that happened in the past. It's a living, breathing story that continues to shape our present and our future. It's up to each of us to learn from the past, to engage with the complexities of history, and to work towards a more peaceful and just world for all.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Oxford Illustrated History of Second World War. We'll see you next time on Books and Bytes.